Hi, I'm Sandy McDaniel, and I'm so glad you're joining me. Last session, we talked about being proactive. That's such a hard thing to do. I mean, you're overwhelmed already. You're trying to cope. And what I'm saying to you is, if you listen to me, if you learn this skill, it will cut down the chaos. It will cut down how often you get angry. It will cut down the problems. And it's a skill you need to learn. Heading off a problem before it happens, it's really hard to do. And as I said, when children run in the rooms, particularly two children, turn and look and say to yourself, what's going on? What's happening here? Because it can be something that you can head off rather than waiting for the fight to explode. Prepare before you go somewhere where you expect your children to behave. In the market, getting off a boat to go to Catalina Island, wherever. I use those examples in the lesson. Teach yourself to think ahead of time what's happening and what could happen, and it will help you to do your job better. Now, today we're going to talk about a subject that's very dear to my heart. I actually spent 7 years of my life co-authoring this book here. It's called Project Self-Esteem, and I spent a lot of time researching self-esteem in children with my partner in writing this book, Peggy Beelan. And I've spent most of my life looking for my own self-esteem. So this topic is critical to me in that I want you to understand how important it is. I just mentioned a name, Peggy Beelan. Peggy came into my life because she was recommended to me by a lot of teachers. She and I were retired teachers, and we were both doing things in the schools, we're teaching lessons with kids. And somebody said to us, you ought to find Peggy Beelan, and they were saying the same to her. You ought to find Sandy McDaniel, and you two should get together. Well, we did. And when we got together, we had a common concern, a common purpose. And it was that we were concerned that the schools were heading more and more toward the academical side of learning and abandoning the whole child, the emotional side. And this was in 1979, 1980, so that was a long time ago. And the schools did do that, actually. But what we were looking for is a balance in that. So we went looking for a program on attitude. Well, we didn't find one. And then we started wandering into this word self-esteem, this word, depending on how you write it, self-esteem. And so we said the ultimate thing that changed both of our lives was, what would we do? We spent enormous amounts of time researching children, talking to people who knew, going into schools. I spent a lot of time in schools with older kids saying, okay, your kids are coming up through the ranks. Not your kids, your brother and your sister are coming up through the ranks. And what are you worried about? What do they need to know? Where are they not going to be safe? And we wrote a program around that. So, in terms of what I want to say to Peggy Beelan is, you have been my friend, an extraordinary teacher. That was a time that you can't replace, those 7 years that we worked on that program night and day. And everything I'm doing now, you have a piece in because you're always a part of my life. Thank you, Peggy. All right, now, so if we're going to talk about self-esteem, we need to identify it. Self-concept is the picture you have about yourself. It's how you see yourself, okay? It was mostly delivered to you from other people, mostly with you messages, Y-O-U. You're lazy, you're good at this, you're not good at this, you're just like your brother, all the Y-O-U messages. And you have a picture based on those messages, actually your decision about those messages. So, self-esteem is your feeling about that picture, right? Self-esteem is your feeling about that picture. So self-esteem is really, really important. In fact, it's so important because self-esteem is the basis of every single choice that you make. Every single choice. What kind of friends you make, whether you handle success or failure, whether you are more designed for success or failure, what you do on a daily basis, the choices you make every day are based in this fundamental core called self-esteem. It's how you feel about yourself. And you see, if you think of yourself, if you feel that you are a success, you will be a success, no matter how many times you fail. And if you think of yourself, you feel that you are a failure, you will fail, no matter how many times you succeed. So we have to look at this even deeper. Self-esteem is about self-worth and self-trust. Now, when I work with kids, and I do some work with kids, parenting is my main focus, but I do some work with kids. When I work with kids, I teach a Making Good Choices class for kids from 4th grade through high school. And one of the concepts that's really difficult to teach is that when you compromise on something, when you know something's the wrong thing to do and you do it anyway, when you compromise on it, it hurts your ability to make difficult choices later on. Well, you can imagine saying that to a kid. It's like, oh, yeah, well, that's good, and thank you for the information. I mean, gone over their heads. So in the Making Good Choices classes, we have an exercise to demonstrate that. I get a whole line of kids up in front, and they have on the front of them a sign that says self-trust and self-worth. And I say, okay, now I'm going to run you through a series of probabilities. Pretend this actually happened to you. If you would feel a little bit badly if this happened to you, tear off a little piece of paper and drop it on the floor. If you would feel really badly, tear off a big piece. Nod your head if you get it. They all get it, so fine. Okay, here we go. You cheated on a test. Tear off a piece, drop it on the floor. Everybody does that. So your friends, you're in the store and your friends say to you, you know, come on, let's steal something. And you don't want to, you know, but you do. You go along with the crowd. And so you tear off a piece. Then I could add to that piece, and you got caught. Ooh, here comes another big piece. Now, here's the point. Out comes a pillbox and a container, pill container, and I have a penny in it. So I shake it. Hey, my cousin gave me these, and he says you feel really good if you take them. Now, you've had the training. Your parents have been responsible. They've said to you, don't you even think about taking something that we don't give you. We don't hand to you because it could drug you. It could harm you. It could get you to do something you didn't want to do, all right? Or it could kill you in today's world. And so it's a don't do that thing. And here's the problem. You're probably going to do it. I'll show you why. And I go down the list, the row of kids. Some of them have a little tiny piece on them. Some have nothing, absolutely nothing on. The self-trust and self-worth sign is on the floor. And I said, this person doesn't have much self-trust and self-worth. This person doesn't have much. This person, and this person, they're toast. They're mine. When you compromise, when you say okay to something you know is wrong, it erodes, it takes away from your sense of self-trust and self-worth. And see, my belief is that by having the experience of the signs, by watching the kids who are watching in the audience have the experience of the signs disappearing, that when something comes up for them where they're going to go against themselves, then they go, you know what? I'm going to hurt myself if I do this. Self-trust and self-worth are essential components for helping your children to be safe and to make good choices and to have good self-esteem. Another part of self-esteem is valuing yourself. Value. Having some value in yourself. One of the things I do in this Making Good Choices class is I have a red cup. And I say, this is my love cup, okay? And I am so lucky because I have so many people who love me. Now I have a kid standing with a bucket underneath it. So, and I start pouring into the cup, demonstrating people who love me in my life. Obviously, I would put first my children, my grandchildren, my brother, my sister, my mother, my friends, and I'm pouring water into this cup. And of course, it's just pouring out the bottom. And then at the end, that's the point. I say, well, I should be really full. My love cup is so full. I should feel full. But I don't. Why? And I say, state the obvious. And the kids say, well, there's a hole in your cup. I said, yeah, and you know what the hole in the cup is? Is that if I don't love myself, it doesn't matter how many people love me. I'm not going to take it in. We see it with rock stars. Thousands and thousands of people idolizing them. And they go to drugs. And they screw up their lives. They mess up their whole lives. Because they can't take it in. So essential components of self-esteem are self-worth, self-trust, and valuing yourself. Now, if we're going to have an understanding of self-esteem, we need to have a model. So Peggy and I created the model. Every single person needs 2 legs to stand on. All right? In order to be strong, 2 legs to stand on. If you fall down, you can get up easier on 2 legs. What are the 2 legs? They're metaphors. One is lovable, valued, appreciated, loved, and the other is capable, able to do something well. I'm going to take on the lovable leg in this lesson, and then in the next lesson, we'll talk about the capable leg. Lovable. This is an essential part of this whole component. In order to give and receive love, you must understand that you're special. Okay? And we go, that. And then we think it's a competition, like I'm more special than you are, so I'm narcissistic. It has nothing to do with that. I'm going to bring in a friend of mine to help with this idea. Hi. Hello. How are you? I know. I love you too. This is my friend Harmony. And he's the bear from Project Self-Esteem, the book that I showed you. And what's the deal? Do you have something you want from me this morning? Okay. Okay. Oh, all right. Your friend Yogi said that you have to be careful when you're around the rocking chair that's in his house, because he said his grandmother gave it to him, right, so far? Okay. And that it's an antique. And you don't know what an antique is, right? No, don't know, okay. Well, yeah, here's the good news. Hey, I'm back here. I know what it is, okay? You ready? It's something really old. No, I'm not an antique. Watch it, okay? Now, it's older than me. It actually has to be 100 years or older, okay? And it's rare. Rare. What does that word mean? Okay, let me help you with that word. Let's say this pin on your tie, okay? Let's say there were 5 million of them, all right? They wouldn't be particularly valuable because there are 5 million of them. But what if there were only 5 of them? In the whole world, there were only 5 of them. Yeah, I know, that'd be cool, wouldn't it? Yeah, but here's the deal. Then they'd be more valuable because they'd be rare. There wouldn't be very many of them. To the degree an antique is rare, is it valuable? Okay? If it's really rare, it's really valuable. Got it? Okay, good. All right, now here's the hard part. Are you ready? Okay. In this room right here, there is something that's more valuable than any antique that we could bring in here. Oh, got him. Okay. Don't know what it is? It's you. No, you don't have to be embarrassed. Come back here. It's you. And it's me. And it's all these people standing around here creating this film. It's each one of us. Because God gave us an extraordinary gift. An extraordinary gift. There will never, ever be another person just like you. Just like me. Just like them. Never will be. And all the people that there have ever been, and all the people there are here now, and there are a lot of people on this planet, and all the people that will ever be, there'll never be a person just like you. So what? What does that mean? It means you don't have to do anything. You don't have to get up in the morning and say, what do I have to do in order to be special? Because you are special. One of a kind. Come on. That's the most special you can be. We don't have to compete with each other. Harmony. I don't have to try to put you down. I don't have to try to elevate myself. I don't have to do things to feel special. because I am special, because I'm the only me there will ever be. And it's not about ego. It's so far from ego. It's a quiet sense of that I have a job to do every single day, and that's just to be me. And that's just to be you. Okay? So you be careful of that antico, right? Okay? And you remember, you are special because you're you. Got it? Okay. Give me 5. Okay? Thank you. I'll see you in a little bit. Bye. This is a hard concept. It's been a hard concept for me all my life. I'm sure it's a hard concept for you. And it's imperative that you teach your children this. That they're special. They have come to this life. They were born to this life in order, with a gift, with an extraordinary gift. And the gift is them. So while you want to help them be the best gift that they can be, you don't want them to be another you or another anybody else. Because then you're robbing that other person of their gift. You are special every single day of your life. Just breathe. Breathe that in. Because if you get it, then you're going to be able to teach it to your children. Our society is so do-oriented. Do, do, do. You got an A on your test. You hit a home run. Do, do, do. Children are knocking themselves out in order to do enough, to be good enough, to get the love that they need. We need to love them because of the gift they brought to our life. You know, I teach a leave your baggage at the door class. From my book, Leave Your Baggage at the Door. I teach a class on this book, and sometimes in the class, I'll have everybody write down the positives and negatives about themselves. You know, fold the paper in half and put the positives and put the negatives down. Well, as you can imagine, you know, the positives, it's over in about 30 seconds. You know, they write 4 things. But the negative side is like writing a novel, because we've so been trained to focus on the negatives, which again have come from the you messages. You are, you didn't, you're never, you always, YOU. In my discipline system, which I hope you started this whole series, watching this series by watching that. In my discipline system, you will note that I use the word acceptable and not acceptable. They're clean. My mother's generation were the masters of emotional blackmail. Oh, you made me so angry. I'm so disappointed in you. You hurt my feelings. All that stuff, you know. And we ran around with this big bag of guilt on our backs because we couldn't be who they wanted us to be. You want to be cleaner than that. And you don't want to teach your children to do stuff just to get along with you. That isn't learning to be a successful human being. You want them to do it because it is acceptable or not acceptable. In my children's world, being an unkind person was not acceptable. And it wasn't going to happen. Acceptable and not acceptable. So you're going to trade in words like, how can you be so stupid? For that choice was not acceptable. That behavior is not acceptable. Just some tips for helping your child feel lovable. Don't compare your children. Don't compare them ever. Don't compare them to other children. Don't compare them to each other. Don't even compare them to themselves. You know, why aren't you like your brother? John hit a home run today. All that stuff. You teach them to continually measure themselves off of other people. I mean, that's what the whole advertising world is banking on, that you open that magazine and see that body that in your lifetime you'll never be, and feel like you're not good enough because you're not that picture. So we've got to stop it. We've got to say to our children, you know, don't compare. You're the gift. You have a gift. And to help them to just be. Never take your love away. I have a whole lesson on that earlier. Never take your love away from your children. I don't care what they did. I don't care how mad you are. I don't care how justified your anger is. Don't take your love away. I love you every single second that you're alive. Now, about your choice to hit your sister, that's not acceptable. Do you see the difference? Even though I choked in the middle, and I'm okay with choking in the middle. Value your children's gifts. Look for your children's gifts. My son Scott wasn't good in school. He got C's and D's, just rode that line. Of course, Kathleen was getting all A's and a couple of B's. And so the message to Scott was, there's something wrong with your brain. You're not very smart. Well, there's nothing wrong with Scott's brain. Scott's brain works differently than school teaches. Fortunately, mine does too, so I was able to help him with that. But it was important that Scott got some messages other than the messages that school were giving him. And so he's quite an artist. And now he's an amazing photographer. But at the time, he was quite an artist. So we had his paintings and pictures and drawings all over the house. So as he walked through the house, then he would say, yeah, well, I'm not doing too well in school today, but yeah, I'm good at that. And so we were balancing out and honoring his gifts. Tell them that you love them. Tell them in a million ways. Tell them in words. In one of the earlier lessons, I gave you my secret sign with my children. I love you dearly for girls. I love you dearly, stag, for guys. Okay? Tell them. Not because they do something, just because they're in the room. Hey you. Short version, okay? And tell them in other ways. I'm really good at writing jingles. I can write a jingle, and once you start, which is dangerous right here, once you start, put a nickel in, you'll get $100 worth. So I could be out in the kitchen, and I'm making lunches for my kids, and I would stand there, and there's a pause. So in that pause, I can write a jingle on a napkin. And for Kathleen, I would write jingles on her napkins and then draw little butterflies. I can't draw, but I would draw something and send this off in her lunch. Roses are red, violets are purple. I love you more than maple syrup. Okay, I just go. And so I remember the time when a couple of parents called and said, "Would you please stop writing jingles on Kathleen's napkins? Because now all the kids want jingles on their napkins." Well, I didn't stop because it was fun and because it told her in the middle of the day that important message. Hey, I love you. And I noticed that when Kathleen moved into her first home and we were packing up stuff, there was this huge bag of yellow napkins that she had saved all this time. Tell them that you love them in as many ways as you can. And one way is a high five. We gave high fives in our house for being alive, not for something you do. You can do it when they do something, hey, wow, that was cool, you hit a home run, high five. It works there. But I just give them when they walked in the room. Scott was so trained in this. You know how guys are when they watch television? Girls can be that way too, but if it's sports, you know how a guy is, he's no longer in his body, he's in the game. So Scott would be sitting watching a game and he's zoned. And I would come in from the side here and I'm going to walk past him. He was so trained, he would not lose his orbit here, but he'd raise his hand so I could high-five him as I walked by. Because if he didn't raise his hand, I'd pat him on the head, which he hated, or stop and talk to him. So he was just totally trained to go, fine, she's going to high-five me, this is good, I'll do it, and go back, stay in his game. High fives for being alive. Nicknames. Fun nicknames, not nicknames where you're making fun of somebody and you're hiding it under humor. I don't sing really well, but I can carry a tune, and I sing all the time. I mean, in the market, wherever. But it took me a long time to be able to just let go and sing, because I couldn't sing when I was younger, and they gave me a bucket. So I had to have a bucket to carry my tune in that I obviously lost. And as amusing as that is, you probably just laughed, or you had the same experience. It took me years. There was a teacher in junior high school, a music teacher, when I was walking down the hall, and he said, I was singing, walking down the hall, and he came up next to me and he said, "So how come you haven't joined Glee Club?" And I said, "Well, if you've been walking next to me, you know why." And he said, "You're close." He says, "Come and see me after school." And this man worked with me and helped me overcome my fear. of singing, and I've been obnoxiously singing ever since. My point is, don't make fun of kids and hide it under a nickname. It's cruel. But fun nicknames are great. Everybody in my life, all the children in my life, call me Bam. My grandson Nicholas made up the name. But now everybody, all the kids, call me Bam. I love that name. And I have names for them. And you could do something. I mean, if you're creative enough, you could have a special song. Kathleen had a song, the Christopher Robin, Little Boy Kneels at the Foot of His Bed, that song. And I would sing that to her at night. And so I wrote a song for Scott. And I used to sing it to him. And then when Scott and Katie had a little baby boy, I started singing it to Nicholas and just changed the Scott to Nicholas. And then along came Chelsea. And we found that Nicholas would climb over the side of the crib at nighttime when Chelsea was going to bed. And he would squat down next to her and he would sing the song, changing her name for her. And then as Chelsea got older, she would hold her doll at night and sing the song to her. This is the magic of life. I can't even listen to that story or I'll start going and crying right in front of you, you know. But this is the magic, and this is your visible immortality. These are the things you pass down to down to down to down. Every year on his birthday, my son Scott gives me a long stem red rose. And so last year, because he has kids and stuff, and he lived right around the corner from me, it wasn't like he lived far away, I said to him, you know, we've done the red rose thing, and I've made you a legend because I tell the story all the time. Just skip it this year. I get it. I get the point. I get the message, you know. I should have known because his first clue was he said, whatever, okay? My children's favorite word for putting me off. Whatever. So on his birthday, August 2nd, there was a little knock on my door, and I opened the door, and little Nicholas was standing there, and he had an envelope with a huge plumeria on the top, and he said, "This is for you, Bam." And I looked at it, and I said, "Is that from your daddy?" And he said, "Uh-huh." And I said, "Is he hiding around the corner?" And he said, "Shh." And so I said, come on, let's go." So we ran around the corner, and we went, "Surprise!" And then we sang happy birthday to him. And then I stepped around in front of him, and I did my, "I'm so proud of the choices you've made, and I love you dearly," little speech. And then the two boys, the 6'5" daddy and the little tiny boy, walked out to the gate. Scotty leaned down to Nicholas, and when they got to the gate, he turned around. He said, 1, 2, 3, and together they said, "It's I love you dearly." You need to tell them. You need to tell them in every possible way you can. When Scott went off to wilderness survival camp at 11, mind you, he was the kid who wouldn't walk down the hall by himself in the dark at night, and he was obsessed with going to wilderness survival camp. So I knew he needed a little support while he was there. And it was time when Star Wars came out. I put the Force is with you stickers in everything he owned. I mean, everything that he took on that trip. And that's my way of saying, you know, Scott, I'm not only I'm with you, but I love you. There is nothing more valuable than one of a kind. There is nothing more valuable you will give your children than to help them feel lovable. What I want you to do for homework this week is to write down 7 ways you could help your child feel more lovable, or 1 way, and practice it for 7 days. Every day, at the beginning of the day, how can I help this child to have a sense of feeling appreciated, valued, and loved? Because if your child is solid in this leg, then you're on the road to success as a parent. Have a beautiful day, and take gentle care of you.